You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture and all things related to it. New episodes are released daily. For more information, check out glossahouse.com and subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome and enjoy.
Χαίρετε πάντες, εγώ είμαι η Εσέ και τούτες την ζων හෙλληνιστί. Hello everyone, I'm Jesse Orloff and this is Living in Greek. Today I wanted to try something a little bit unusual maybe. I have started playing around with ChatGPT in an attempt to try to generate some easier content just to provide more input. This was prompted by a question that someone had posted on one of my other videos. And so I thought that I would today take some time to just do that on screen here and see what it generates for us. I've generated probably 10 or so different stories, and some of them have been really interesting and some of them have been pretty bad. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to generate one live here and see what it gives us. If it doesn't give us anything good, we can try again, or I can go pull up one of the other ones. We'll just have to see what happens as we generate it. So I'm going to share my screen now. All right. So on the screen, I have ChatGPT up, and I've got a prompt here that I've already written that has provided me some good results in the past. So we're going to see if it does the same this time. So this is what I'm telling ChatGPT to do. Using the Koine Greek dialect, can you generate a short story about a family living in first century Jerusalem? Tell me about their daily life and about a significant challenge that the family encounters. Can you do it in the style of Hans Henning Orberg's Familia Romana, LLPSI? In the early sections of the story, can you use very simple grammar and gradually increase the complexity of the grammar as the story progresses. Please only use words that existed in the Koine era Greek dialect. I would love the story to include at least 10 paragraphs. All right, we'll go ahead and hit enter and it will start generating. A few times it's generated stories that sound like they more or less come straight from Scripture. Sometimes they've been more creative. Never know exactly what I'm going to get here. So this one's starting to generate. Let's go ahead and see how much it generates and what the quality of this is going to be like. Okay, so it stopped generating. It wants to know if it can continue. I'm going to tell it to go ahead and continue. I already see that this one includes Jesus, which the few times it's done that, it seemed to be more like it's pulled from Scripture. But let's see what we get here. This is pretty short. It didn't give me 10 paragraphs, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and read some of this and see what it's giving us. Un en Jerusalem en Iukia Mikra, en te emera kath ein to Elios anetile, erxato e Iukogenia ton Veniamin tu ergatu ten emeran. O pater o Iosef exere tas hieras avtu ento agro spiron tas spermata tu situ. E meter e Maria epiui tas ergasias tes Iukias. Opson et iumasusa ke imatia raptusa. Ta tecna o Iesus ke e Anna exipniu pedes epesonto ento perivolo. Ento perivolo tes Iukias. En meso ton luludion ke ton dendron. Iu emere parerchonto en armonia ke Irene. Os to llenos ton Veniamin. All right, already just commenting on what I see here. It's trying to generate a story about a family here, like we asked. It said, therefore, in Jerusalem there was a small house, and in the day, according or each day when the sun rose, the family of Benjamin began the work of the day, or began the day of work. The father, Joseph, exere, lifted out his hands in the fields, sowing the seed of wheat. The mother, Maria, did the work of the household. Opson. Preparing something. This almost looks like, I'm not exactly sure what that is, maybe. And patching the clothes. The children, Jesus and Anna, awake children, or something. Επέζοντο εν το περιβόλο της οικίας. They played in the area around the house, in the middle of something, I don't know this word, and the trees. It's getting, eu emera. So already we have some, the grammar of this one hasn't been particularly good from what I can tell. It seems like it's, here's an example of it's using gender and grammatical gender and the word it's modifying aren't really matching up. So I don't feel like this was a particularly good one so far. Let's see. I think it's about to get into the main story here, so let's see if it gets any better. Mian de emeran en evadizontes isten polin o Iosef katelipen a prosekton ti en to agro. Epestrepsen un isten iukian monos. Afesas ton Iesun keten anan metates metros tu ente apusia tu patros siuneve. Yeah, so the grammar is not necessarily getting any better in this one. We got a dangling genitive article here. Ente apusia tu patros, well, the father was absent, siuneve ti paradoxon. Something happened that was wondrous or strange. Ekusan iu periteniukian voen, those around the house heard a voice. Okay. Osper phonen angelu, as the voice of an angel. Ke idu pure epitesiukias, fire upon the house. Afraxan un pantes, ke evron to pedion ton mikron ton Iesun, kathemenon atrema en meso tu purus. It looks like they found Jesus sitting unharmed in the middle of the fire. I'm assuming that's what atrema means, but I'm not exactly sure. Aphonetos on opuros ude e flux. Ude e vlave ente iukia e geneto. E meter e Maria que o pater Iosef e thavmazon epi tius ginomenius thavmazontes to thavma tu theu. All right, so it sounds like neither the fire or the flame made a noise, nor did harm come to the house. The mother Maria and the father Joseph, which the story is. Let's see. I think they're getting the names mixed up. It sounds like to me. but they're kind of falling back on, no, maybe not, Pater Yosef, Maria. So they've taken biblical characters here, which I didn't notice that right away for some reason, and given Jesus a sister apparently, but now Jesus is sitting unharmed in a fire in the house, and Joseph and Mary marvel at this. Syunetrisen un olaos epitenukian ton Veniamin. There's Veniamin again. I think that's why I got confused, because it started with Veniamin. Voontes ke thamazontes to endoxon ergon tu kiriou. Edoxazon ton theon ke vulon to perisoteron gnone ton neanian Iesun ke ten Iosef ten Marian. They were glorifying God and desired especially to know, and Jesus and the youth, Jesus desired especially to know God, I guess. Apode tu keru ekinu o Jesus erixamenos ephenetos sophos ke dunatos entius logius ke tius ergius. From that time, Jesus began pheneto, appearing appearing wise. He appeared wise and capable. I don't think I think I wouldn't have expected this to be a nominative here. Entius logius, entius ergius. Ekiniu de esan emere kale. Enes euko genia ton Veniamin efrenomeniu. Ezesan. All right, so those days were good in which the household of Benjamin rejoicing lived. They lived rejoicing. All right, so this generated a story. This particular story doesn't make a lot of sense. It's taken some biblical characters and it's kind of crafted something here. But I've seen it do better than this. Let me pop over here real quick and see if this story is any better. I haven't read this one much. What I've noticed, I've got two ChatGPT accounts, one that uses my work email and one that uses my personal email. And it seems like the one using my work email had access to something more experimental. And so I think it generated a better story. So I'm going to pop over there actually and see if that story is more interesting. So give me just a second as I pop over there. Okay. Cool. Let's this is a story that I generated just a minute ago. Let's see if it is. I'm just going to scan over it. See, I see Maria or Mary. I see John. I've seen a handful of stories it generates about Jesus, and most of them are just strange because most of the material about Jesus that it could pull from, is references his divinity or his power. And so you end up getting a story that's kind of mixed in with like normal life of a normal family and a Jesus who is powerful, but it's not the Jesus that is from the Bible. So it ends up seeming very, very strange usually. But okay, let's try this one. I created a story. Eukia tu Ioannou. Ioannes estin aner en Jerusalem. Ioannes eunen echi e eunen Elene estin. Okay, so John is a man in Jerusalem. John has a wife, and her name is Eleni, or Elaine. Ioannes και Ελένε, δύο τέκνα έχουσιν, τον Ιακώβον και την Μαρίαν. All right, so they have two children, James and Maria. Ioannes τέκτον εστίν, Ελένε εν τε οικία εργάζεται. So John is a craftsman, Elaine works in the house. Iacovos και Maria pedes εστίν, Maria μικρά εστίν, Iacovos megas εστίν. James and Maria are children. Maria is small and James is large. Εμέρα εκάστε Ιωάννης έρχεται εκ της οικίας πρώτες ανατολές του ηλίου. Each day, John walks out of their house towards the rising of the sun. Ο Ιωάννης εργάζεται. Part 2. Ιωάννης εις την αγοράν βαίνει, εκεί ο Ιωάννης ξύλα και λίθους τέμνει. All right, so John walks into the marketplace. There, John cuts wood and stones. Ελένε εν τε οικία άρτον πιουί και ημάτια ράπτη. Eleni, I'm not really sure how to translate this here. Elaine, in the house makes bread and patches clothes. Iakovos parato patriestin. Iakovos mathin theli. James is with his father. James desires to learn. Maria parate metriestin. Maria mathin utheli alapezin. Maria is with her mother, and she does not want to learn, but she wants to play. So already this story is much better than the last story. It's got a plot that seems to make sense. The characters kind of make sense, and it's actually kind of funny a little bit. You're talking about how James wants to play or wants to learn from his father, but Maria doesn't want to learn from her mother. She'd rather just play. She is little after all. Eorte. Εμέρα μία μεγάλη εορτή εστίν εν Ιερουσαλήμ. Ο λαός πανταχού συνέρχεται. One day, a great feast is in Jerusalem, and the people συνέρχεται, gather together everywhere, or are come together from everywhere. Ιωάννης και Ελένε εις τον ναόν πορεύονται μετά των τέκνων. So John and Eileen go into the temple with their children. Iacovos και Maria χερουσίν. Iacovos ίσταται εν γης του πατρός. Maria εν γης της μετρός. James and Maria rejoice. James stands near the father, Maria near the mother. Επρόκλησης. Εν τε εορτέ Maria απόλετο. Ιωάννης και Ελένε λυπούνται. In the festival, Maria is lost. John and Eileen, I don't know what to do with that word still, they grieve. Ιωάννης και Ιάκωβος ζητούσιν Μαρίαν εν τες οδίους έρχονται. John and Jacob are seeking for Maria in the roads. They go about in the roads. Ελένε μένει εν το ναό και προσεύχεται. Η καρδία αυτής αγωνιά. All right. Elene remains in the temple praying, and her heart is in agony, I guess, is in anguish. Ο Ιωάννης ευρίσκει Μαρίαν. Ο λίγον χρόνων μετά ταύτα Ιωάννης Μαρίαν ευρίσκει εν τε αγορά. So after just a little while, John finds Maria in the marketplace. Maria κλαίει. Ο πατέρα αυτήν παρακαλεί και λέγει «Με φοβού, Maria». Maria cries, and her father, the father comforts her and says, «Do not fear, Maria». Ιωάννης την Μαρίαν άγει προς τον ναόν όπου Ελένε αναμένει. John leads Maria towards the temple where Elene still remains. Εσυνάντησης. Ελένε βλέπει την Μαρίαν και χερισφόδρα η οικογένεια εστι πάλιν ομού. Elene sees Maria and rejoices exceedingly, and the family is again together. Ο λαός την εορτήν συνεχίζει και Ιωάννης και Ελένε ευχαριστούσι το Θεό. The people συνεχίζει, they something the festival. I don't know, συνεχίζει. Και Ιωάννης, let's see, and John and Elene give thanks to God, or are giving thanks to God. Ιάκωβος αδελφέν αυτού ασπάζεται και λέγει με απέρχε πάλιν Μαρία. James greets his sister and says, "Don't go away again, Maria." Maria υποκλίνεται και επαγγέλλεται ουκ απέρχομαι, αδελφέ. Maria lays down or sticks with John and promises, "I will not go away, brother." Εννέα εμέρα. Εξ εκείνες τες ημέρας Μαρία συνετός και φρονίμος έπρατεν. From that very day, Maria, wise and understanding, acted. Oh, interesting. Epraten. It looks like it's using the attic form, so maybe it's using it's pulling some of these words from the attic dialect rather than just the Koine, because this would be in Koine. This would be praso. All right. Ioannes, Elene, Iacovos και Maria ευραίνονται εν τη οικία αυτών. John, Elene, James, and Maria rejoiced in their house. Zoe en Jerusalem ou πάντοτε εύκολος, αλλά αγάπη και επίστης τους κατέχει. Let's see, life in Jerusalem is not always εύκολος, maybe not always good, maybe not always easy, αλλά αγάπη και επίστης τους κατέχει. But love and faith hold fast to them. This is the first spot of kind of a dangling article I've seen. That might not be great grammar there. Οικογένεια αλλήλους αγαπώσει και τον Θεόν δοξάζουσι. All right, the family loves one another and glorifies God. Το τέλος. Η οικία του Ιωάννου εστί παράδειγμα αγάπης και πίστεως. The house of John is an example of love and faith. Ιωάννης και Ελένε μένουσιν πίστιου εν τε πόλη και τα τέκνα αυτών μαθαίνουσιν από τες πίστεως αυτών. John and Elene remained faithful in the city, and their children, mathenusin. This looks like mantano, maybe, but I think they turned it into like a liquid ending there, but basically I think it's trying to say, and their children learn from their faith, although that I would have used mantanusin or emathon, but maybe I don't know that word. Iacovos και Maria megalosin και ευλογούσει την οικογένειαν αυτών. James and Maria megalosin made great and blessed their households. Zoe αυτών εστι πλέρες χαράς και ειρήνης. Their lives are full of joy and peace. Okay, so some things that stood out to me here. This story was much, much better than the last story. The plot made a lot of sense, and it kind of kept on the same thread of a story. And it even at the end, Totelos, it even had a little bit of a summation of, and a kind of provided a moral for the story, that they were an example of love and faith. They stayed faithful, and their children learned from them through this tribulation of losing Maria in the city, and ultimately the family kind of got the family lived happily ever after, so to speak. And altogether, I think this was a really interesting story. I didn't notice as many grammatical errors in this story as in the other one. And I think, if I look over here, what I see here is that this free plan here, which is associated with my work email, has limited access to ChatGPT 4.0. And the other one I believe the other one only had access to 3.5. If I had to guess, this is using the 4.0 limited access, because most of the stories that I've tried to generate over on this side have been better than the ones out there. So where does that leave us? Well, I think it's probably like, why I was originally thinking about this was if we can get more content that can be at an easy level, then that just helps us to fill the gap we have on comprehensible input at all levels. So that's kind of why I thought that this could be interesting, and getting in and seeing how it actually works. I feel like ChatGPT 3.5, or at least kind of where it is now, it's probably not good enough. You wouldn't want to be a beginner and then go and try to learn your Greek from what we read in the first story. The second story is much better, and if I would think if you're a more advanced student in Greek, or you feel pretty comfortable and can already read pretty comfortably, then the second story is really, really good. It was interesting, and it provided provided a little challenge for me. There was a handful of words I didn't know that I think the problem that you run into, like with this word mathenusin, is that I don't know if this is actually a word, or if they kind of generated it incorrectly from Montano, and so I'd have to go look that up. So I don't know about the reliability there. Regardless, I think that what we have here is really interesting, and over the next year or two, as the AI generative technologies get better and better, I think we're going to have the ability to generate much more content, and it's going to get more and more accurate, is my hope and my assumption, just based on what we've seen over the last couple of years of AI. So I think I'm really excited about where this could go, just in terms of how it could make content much more available for us. And I would, if we could get, I told this in the prompt to generate it in the style of Hans Henning Orberg's Familia Romana. What I would love to see one day is the ability to generate this with like sidebars that, it'd have to understand which words or constructions were more complicated. But I think that eventually maybe it can do that. Maybe it could generate an entire, this was a small story, but maybe it can generate these little stories and have them, showing little images on the side to help you understand words that might be harder. I don't know. I'm really curious what this could become in the future. Anyways, I hope this was interesting to you guys. It was really interesting to me, just trying to generate some prompts and try to figure out how I could get it to produce more interesting or more accurate or longer little stories. I'd encourage you to go play around with it, see what it can do for you. I found when I went to Google and tried in their AI, it really couldn't, it wasn't capable of generating any story. When I tried on Bing's Copilot, and it wasn't able to generate a story. It said it didn't have that feature yet. But when I went over directly to ChatGPT, his website, chatgpt.com, or what was the other one? It was chatgpt.com. It was in fact able to generate some stories, and some of them were pretty interesting. A couple of them, especially on on my personal account, which is a 3.5, I believe, some of them like kind of bordered on sacrilegious with the way that they generated stories about Jesus that pulled both from the Bible, and also it's trying to create a fictional story about a fictional family, because a lot of times the characters are the same. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. And we're not getting any theology from these by any means. But I imagine if you were to prompt that was set in Greece, and were more like, maybe it would be able to pull from some of the existing graded reader content out there and generate stories that don't involve biblical characters, and stay away from the chance of getting doctrine or theology kind of mixed up. I would say you just got to play around with it and see what it can generate for you, and maybe it produces something useful. I don't know. Hope this was helpful and that it encouraged you to try this out a little bit. At any rate, I will see you next time. Thank you.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.